Your microphone's on.
All right, so the item was agenda 4.1, considering approving tonight's agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion was made by Joe Pinto, seconded by Sheila Sullivan Beanie to approve the agenda for this evening. All right. Item number 5.
Yes.
Oh, vote on that. Sorry. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion stands. Item number 5, public comment for agenda items only. No public comment noted. Thank you. Item 6.1, consider approving the minutes from the May 18th, 2023 meeting.
Okay, this is where I'll say, I think that a couple corrections need to be made on item 10.4. There are factual inaccuracies in what I said, or whatever. The grant, actually, second sentence, it says a grant in the amount of 50,000. I was rereading my notes and it's actually not that number. They're going to do 50 acres. So they're going to fund 50 acres. And then a couple lines down, it says they're going to charge 351. I inverted my numbers and it's 315. Just minor points.
But I just want to make sure I get this right. I just want to make sure I-
They've received grants to fund the transition of 50 acres.
50 acres. Okay.
And then 2 lines down, it's $315, not 351. Oh, and the other thing I thought didn't seem right was under 10.6. The 4th sentence says last year we ordered and gave away 150 trees to residents with the space to plant them. I don't think the township gave away 150 trees. Unless they were talking to Pico trees.
Yes, that was the Pico tree. Was 115, I think.
That was mentioned.
I don't know
Who said that? Yeah.
who said it.
Well, it could have been me. I know I talk a lot.
And
I would just strike the whole sentence.
okay.
I think Joe's checking the notes, just.
Trying.
I mean, we did give away a certain number of trees with working with Pico.
Yeah.
And it probably was pretty close to that number of trees.
Well, if you think it's right, just.
I don't know that it's right. And here's what I would say.
We can remove
If
it.
I don't think it substantially changes anything. Again, a reminder that the minutes are really more important than the actions that you take. And so I'd rather be more vague in the minutes and, say we talked about this topic, unless there's something specific that it relates to. So.
So do we need to make a motion?
So I think we have, as I hear, 2 amendments to it. One is in 10.4 that we fund that they have grant to fund 50 acres of, I guess it's meadow plantings.
Yep.
And it's $315 versus 351. And then under 10.6 that we were going to strike the 1 sentence.
Yeah. And Joe, those first 2 were my mistake. You probably correctly transcribed
I
what I
definitely
said. I know you did, because I remember saying that. And when I read my notes, I realized I had said the wrong thing.
I don't have the 150. So sometimes when I'm doing it, I'll watch the recording as well. So I must have gotten it from there if I don't have it written down.
No worries. All right, the motion was made to make those 2 amendments. Those amendments that were noted. Do we need to take a vote on that, Steve?
You need to take a note, and what I would do is I would say you're voting on approving the minutes as amended in 10.4 and 10.6.
All right. So a motion was put forth for us to approve the meeting minutes from May 18th as amended with Cindy's notations. Do I get a second on that? Second. Okay. Motion was made by Sheila Sullivan Feeney, seconded by Cindy Mahalo to accept the minutes from May 18th, 2023,
As amended.
as amended. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion stands. Perfect. All right. Item 7.1, discussion and possible action on the Veterans Memorial Marble revisions. All right, so we did see the plans, and Steve, can you bring those up on there, because we had, I had difficulty, I don't know if anyone else did, opening up. Did anyone else have a chance or opened up? I was not able to open up the cloud from the link that was sent out for the change. Was anyone else?
Yeah, I think so.
I could open them all.
Yeah, I wasn't, I don't know why.
Well, I went to the document that had the one link.
Yes,
And then I opened that link.
yes, the cloud,
And then that took me to the 3 documents.
yes.
And then I opened each of those.
And I did all of that, but I could not, when I got the links lifted up, nothing else was coming up. So I really didn't get to see all of this. But I know that we've discussed before the VFW, and now the difference is the 3-story office building, which would be different. So Cindy, do you have any comments?
Yeah. First of all, if you look at the first page of that's the 25-page document up there. All the things in the right-hand column, none of them seem to be signed. Oh,
Well, they wouldn't be signed. This hasn't gone to the planning commission, hasn't gone to the board, none of that would be signed.
Okay.
That doesn't get signed until after that's all done.
okay. If you look at page 4, and you can also see this on page 5. If you notice, okay, that's a good picture. You see in the lower left-hand corner, the construction and the parking lots. And then off to the right is a rounded road that's called Drive B. And that circles up and around, and then it goes off the screen, and then on the left, top left off the screen, it hits Alice Grimm Road, I think it's called.
Yes.
Okay, now, if you look to the right of that's called Drive B.
Yes.
And if you look immediately to the right of that, there's another road there. Very close by. And I'm thinking, that's kind of silly. That's kind of redundant. It's extra impervious surface in the watershed of a high quality cold water fishery stream. And why, you know, if you look at the whole development, there's such massive amounts of parking proposed. Why do we need more pavement and more impervious surface? And it seems really silly to have that Drive B, especially since one of those roads is already paved. Now, maybe it's Alice Grimm Road that goes all the way in the back, but to me, that doesn't make sense.
So I'll tell you what's happening on the plan, and I hear what you're saying. So the road that's coming off of 252.
With the little Y shape.
So the Y shape here, right?
Yep.
The height of this there's a significant difference in the height of this and this, which is your proposed access drive.
Okay, and how close are they?
I don't know how close they are. I would have to
Well,
look.
They look really close. And if one's significantly higher than the other, is there going to be a retaining wall there?
I think there is going to be a retaining wall there. I think that was on the original plan for the hotel.
I think we should see that.
Well, that's already been approved. I mean, like, that's already done, the plan for the hotel. So, I mean, that's why it's not there.
So the retaining wall and these 2 roads are already approved?
No, this wall was approved at the time of the hotel. I mean, this road was approved at the time of the hotel.
Mhm.
This one was not. This one now is part of accessing this parking lot, and having it access Drive B.
Okay, well, to me, this is kind of one of the problems of approving this stuff all piecemeal, that
Well, you would not have been able, I mean, in seriousness, they would not have been able to have connected into that parking lot from the road coming in. The steepness, there was a problem with the steepness of the slope to get Drive B and that entrance to work. It took them quite a bit to figure out how to get that to work.
the steepness of what?
So You have to have, you have to meet a certain level, you can only have a certain level of steepness
Yeah,
coming
because
onto the site.
I saw a comment in their response letter where it was, there was discussion about, a retaining wall and a 3-to-1 ratio and a 1-to-1 ratio. Is that the item you're talking about?
I don't, well, I don't know for sure, but it was part of the hotel discussion that coming from here to here, the slope between here and here was a difficult achievement to start with. So it does not surprise me that they have an additional drive here accessing this section of the property, because they would not have been able to come here and go in like this, if that's what you were saying.
Okay, I appreciate the explanation, but then that raises other concerns that I hope the engineer has addressed, or I hope are illustrated in the plan, in that if you've got these two roads that are so close to each other, that are at such a significant height difference, what's the engineering that's going to allow these two roads to structurally be safe and be that close to each other?
Well, they happen all the time. I mean, it happens all the time. You have it. I mean, if you go down the highway and there's there's whole sections of roads where the north lane is here and the south lane is down here, and you've got a wall that's in between the two. I mean, that happens. That's part of where you have particularly steep slopes. That's, a lot of times how they do that in order to give you the pitches that they're trying to achieve. That's an allowable
So
degree.
does it show on the plan where these roads eventually converge and have a common elevation?
Well,
Because
it does it big. Drive B is where they both come together, right? So you have, here's drive B, right? It's being put in, which will be access here, but also access where the proposed hotel was. And
so kind of where your pen is where drive B will connect with the drive that's right next to it.
so here's the connection point between here and here, right?
Okay, so if that's the case, one of the changes in this was the addition of a sidewalk, which had been missing. And they added a sidewalk along Alice Grimm Road.
Yes.
So that was added. But then there was also the notation that this is supposed to be a lifestyle village.
Yes.
And in the comment letter, it stated how one of the premises and the objectives of a lifestyle village is to be very walkable and pedestrian friendly. So I didn't see any sidewalks along Drive B. Now, if people are going to be walking, and this is supposed to be a pedestrian friendly development, and this veterans thing is on the bottom corner, theoretically, the hotel and the shops and everything else he wants to add are going to be all off to the right. So to me, you're going to have more people that are going to want to walk down Drive B to get over to this, mythical hotel and restaurants and stuff than walk down Alice Grimm, because there's already a sidewalk on the other side of Alice Grimm. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to have two sidewalks on both sides of Alice Grimm and no sidewalk on Drive B.
I think there is a sidewalk on Drive B. I just don't think you see it because it was a part of the prior approval.
But why isn't it on this plan?
Well, I would argue that this plan is still not, I would argue this plan still has, I would argue that none of the drawing that you see that's light should be on this plan.
Okay, but Drive B is on this plan.
Drive B is on this plan. And I would argue that should show the sidewalk, which I believe is on the original plan. I don't disagree with your comment. I'm just saying.
Afraid that this being done piecemeal, that sidewalk is never going to materialize. Because
I think it's a fair.
They'll make the road and then they'll say, oh, gee, it's
Yep.
too late, in a year or two, if they say, we'll put it in later, and then all of a sudden, well, the lights are already in place and the stormwater is already in place.
I think it's appropriate to say that you think there should be a sidewalk along Drive B.
And we did
put in previous letters for this property. One thing we mentioned before was, we know that, I understand where on the property is the wetlands? I guess it's behind that, or where exactly?
Yep.
Is that?
Sheila, that's a really good question because if you look at, there's a page, I think it's 4 or 5, where there's some things noted, but they're not explained in the legend what it is.
This area here, I believe, is the wetland delineation right along this area. This area.
This little dragon line here, and how long ago was that delineated?
This right here. Anything where you see this, that's the wetland. I
Line?
think that's it. It's hard for me to see it, but I think that's it.
Okay, so that's kind of what I thought. So if that's the wetland,
Wait a second.
how can?
Hold on, time out. Time out. Stepped away from.
Yeah.
mine.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, that's, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 'cause if not, it won't get picked up.
So Steve, can you enlarge that a little bit?
Okay.
Because it seems like the wetlands, if I'm reading the legend correctly, are all raggedy shapes and kind of go all through the middle,
Yes.
through the parking lots, through the buildings.
Well,
How can that be?
well, first of all, remember, you go up just a little bit. The only thing we're focusing on is here. All of this has to come off the plan as far as I'm concerned. It's not being designed. It is not, it's,
And there were a lot of items in the comment letter about phase 1, phase 2, should it be on the diagram, should it not be?
that's the whole point. And we were saying, literally, this should go away and all of this should go away. You're dealing with one thing, this right here.
And the office building on this particular.
This office building is not on here.
But-
On this plan, we are.
But, and I thought about that. I thought, should we ask for the plan to only have what we're looking at? But then, if this has already been approved, you said some of this has already been approved.
Well, there was an approval, go down a little bit.
I mean, if
For
something,
this hotel.
then
right
I,
here.
then I think that should be in there.
The question that actually is in existence today, and just so you understand. The land development piece for this was done. We had heard that they may be removing that. And so that's, that may be going away. We just don't know. But they may not build it because the hotel was approved prior to COVID. Things have changed since COVID. And so I don't know whether this will ever be built. Okay, so the plan may come in that's totally different. All they're trying to do right now is build this building right here. This whole plan is zoned one of two ways. It's either zoned commercial or lifestyle village. If it's lifestyle village, they have to come in with what you're kind of seeing here. There's all this in the background. And then they would be getting the whole thing approved at one time. Or for this one building, they can come in as commercial for this one building. And they're going before zoning tonight for this one building, because one of the challenges that we have is where that building is. If it's lifestyle village, it can be within 20 feet of the road. If it's not within lifestyle village, I'm gonna get the wrong number, but I think it's 150.
150.
150 feet. So they would need a variance for that 150 feet. And the issue is, they want to get this building built for the veterans and do this, and we understand that. Which really is apart from all of the rest of this. We've said, if you're gonna come in, you can't piecemeal it. If you're gonna piecemeal the whole thing. If you're just wanting to do this one building, we're gonna work with you on this one building because it's for the veterans, what they're trying to accomplish and do that. But once they get past all of this, we're just saying this can't be on the plan. You gotta take all of this off.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, because when we talked about this before, I raised the concern that they're gonna try to piecemeal the whole thing.
if they do, then they have to do it to the C1,
the commercial.
I can't remember C1 or C2. I'm drawing a blank right at the moment. They would have to build the whole thing to commercial and have to meet all the requirements for
But why
commercial.
can't they try the same employee again, or they come back?
Well, because the board eventually is going to say no. There, I mean, the one thing is, if it wasn't the Veterans Hall, I don't think we'd be having the conversation. Because I think the board would say, come in with a plan that either shows the whole thing or nothing.
I thought we originally were just talking about the VFW hall, but then I saw in the notes a 3-story office building. In that, and is that in this plan? Because that's in the preliminary final. I didn't know if they had it in their writing, and I found it in their documents, a 3-story office building, and I didn't know where that was coming from, because we previously discussed the VFW hall, and I know Cindy brought up.
Where do you see that? I'm sorry.
When I pulled up the notes from Rose, I'll have to, is it not on this plan at all?
Well, I think that's the argument, is that it says right here. Actually, I don't know that it says a 3-story, but it just says phase 2, the development and office building and associated parking. And we've said that's got to come off the plan.
Okay.
You either come in and you design it this way.
Okay.
And you design and show us a whole lifestyle village.
Right.
Or you come in and do just this one building is what we've said.
Well, I know in previous letters, Cindy, we've addressed some of our concerns, and we did want to let them clearly know what our concerns were for the area regarding, because you've had that, you've brought up slopes before in that area. We brought up the wetlands in that area. We brought up the wildlife.
I don't think, and just,
I thought we were looking at the big picture, making sure we were setting expectations from.
I think that's fine. And I think you've already done that. And I think, but I just want you to be aware that I don't think there's wetlands specifically in the area that we're looking at in regarding to where
Okay.
this building is. But so I'm just saying that in regards that I know you addressed it earlier. At least I think you did.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know that you need to, I mean, your new letter should only be amended
For this particular.
if there's something specific to this new plan.
We did believe that the parking was overstating for the square footage of the building, but they were saying it was because it was used for multiple purposes. And did we bring up in our comment letters, maybe using something other than, impervious surfaces, maybe some other type of,
I'm not sure we talked about other parking materials.
because they are over, their parking lot is over based on the square footage of the building, right?
Yeah.
So we were suggesting, can we suggest possibly, is anyone interested in, because they're asking for, I think it was 36 parking spots or something.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
It was something really high. Could we suggest something else?
I think what we could do, and this goes to one of my other comments, is that if you look at page 23, it shows, and this I think is the landscaping plan where it shows where the trees are. The islands, I'm going to call them, where the trees are designated in the parking lot are very narrow, and I think they're probably curbed. And there really are better ways to design a parking lot for stormwater infiltration. So I think we could point out that, and maybe the Shade Tree Commission could weigh in on that. But I think it's probably very unhealthy to try to get shade trees to grow in such narrow islands like that. So I would raise that point.
Didn't we discuss if they held off all of the paving at this point and just focus on the?
If you look at the drawing, and again, this is where you go from phase 1 to phase 2. The phase 1 is going to be like 37 spots with like 6 or 7 ADA spots, but then adjacent to that is an even like bigger part, which they're not going to build right now. But I did drive over there today and I looked at the parking that's available across the street at some of those buildings there, thinking, is it really necessary to have these 36 spots? Could they share? Like, when is it likely that there would be events at this veterans building? Are they daytime? Are they evening? I don't know.
I think that, I think that it, and I don't want to speak for the developer, but I have been out at the site recently for, I think, 3 different events in the last 6 months. And I think they were trying to provide for when they do those events. And to be honest with you, 36 parking spots aren't even going to come close to covering what the normal event when they do their big event. What happens in the building itself, 36 spots is greater than what they need. But when they look at the memorial and the building itself, that's when they're saying that 36 spots, really doesn't, it would help cover for the veterans who are coming and doing things. But a lot of times, either, they have a fair amount of just stone gravel that's there and people park on that, or I've been to several events where I've actually parked over in the spot across Alice Scrim Boulevard
Yeah.
and walked over because parking was already full on the other side, which is why they were wanting to put more parking in now than what would be required for the size of the building.
And I understand that. I just want to say that as the township goes forward and thinks about parking, that maybe we could start inculcating a different philosophy towards parking, where people don't expect to have designated parking right there for everything, like the fact that you had to walk a couple 100 feet across the street. And it's like that when the Little League fields are in peak use. There's people everywhere. But just 100 feet away, you've got massive parking lots at Campus Boulevard for those office buildings that are empty most of the time or have tons of parking. So anyhow, that's not related to this.
What about the stop, and what are they doing for the vegetation between Drive B and the actual VFW? Can we suggest, I don't see, is that just grass or what are they planning for there?
Where are you talking about? I'm sorry.
This area in between, because I didn't see that on all the slopes here. So maybe can we look at a meadow possibility? for
I
that?
think right now that's either grass and or gravel.
It's gonna be developed, right?
Not during not for this.
Not now, but
No.
eventually I think he's planning on developing.
Yeah, I think
So-
there will be, I mean, he believes it's going to be office space. I'm living in a world today that if he can figure out who he would put in as office space, more power to him.
Yeah.
And office space is not of high demand today. So will that change in 5 to 10 years? I don't know that answer.
Mhm. Okay.
If I
And did
did,
we-
I would
wait,
probably
did
be
we
really
know-
rich.
The wildlife corridor in our last comment letter, I don't recall.
I don't think so.
And everyone at that, because that is connection there, and that was a key area.
But what's the action step for him?
Just to note we would like for them in their design to have a wildlife corridor because of the connection back behind this property.
What would a wildlife corridor be?
Basically some way to make sure that a green connection along the waterways for the animals and the things that behind the buildings.
I don't think we mentioned that, but if they have to keep 150-foot riparian buffer, then that would be
Right.
a wildlife corridor. If it would function that way, I don't think there's anything in our code that we can designate that.
We could ask, right?
I mean, I think,
But this isn't within 150
Yeah.
feet. of the
I
stream,
think
don't think.
I think what you want to be careful about, okay? I understand going on record for what you want to try to go on record for. But you're primarily looking at a very small piece of a very large project. And if you get into too many things, it might get lost in the long term. I think you should state the things that you want to make sure that are protected. You want riparian buffers protected, even though you don't see any on this specific part of the project. You want to make sure that you're on record saying that. You want to make sure you're on record stating that you want sidewalks because it's going to be walkable. You want sidewalks at least on one side of every road so that people can walk and go to those kind of locations. And I think that if you want to say something about the fact that they're putting in more parking than they need today, and you would like to have it be some type of pervious, then you could say that. I will say this. Unless it's well maintained, pervious paving,
It's tough.
It's
Yeah,
tough.
that's why
I-
I'm keen on recommending it.
I'm not keen on recommending it because there's no way that we can make people maintain it.
Yeah.
You know, at least right now, we don't have anything on our code that says we're not telling people they have to vacuum it every so often, and, you know,
Yeah.
and if you do that, there are certain things you have to do to make it work. But I mean, I hear you saying, do you really need 36 parking places? Could we get away with not doing maybe the backside of that at this time and do that? I mean, you could add, you know, that's something that if you want to say from an environmental standpoint,
Mhm.
I think the board was more open to, and I don't know this for sure, but I think the board was more open to the concept of some extra parking because it was also addressing the monument itself,
For the
the memorial itself and the events that go there versus, you know, just that. But my understanding is that their stormwater management is being built for the size of actually filling in the entire, and I say the entire, but the whole section between drives B and the access drive and Alice Grim Boulevard.
We could ask for larger islands for
Yeah.
the trees.
Yeah.
So they
That's a good
have
idea.
more space, and then plant with the native plants as well.
Yep.
So
Maybe soft landings, which is
Okay.
something I've learned about, where you don't mound up mulch, but you put native grasses under there so that the caterpillars and all that fall out of the trees have someplace to live and overwinter.
Well, and, you know, maybe, and it's not according to our current code.
Which we're working on.
Well, that's something, but what I was gonna say is not according to our current code in regards to, you know, but we were allowing some of this up on Nolan's project in regards to non-curbed areas with stormwater built into those things. And so maybe one of the suggestions, if you wanted to, was instead of a standard parking lot with a curbed median or medians, is that you would go with non-curbed and use that as a stormwater drainage point
Yeah.
too there. I mean, that
yeah,
would
that's
be
what
the,
we would recommend.
that would be the type of recommendation that I think that would be better than trying to do something impervious.
And that, if you've ever been to the Haverford Community and Environmental Recreation Center, that's what their parking lot is. It's not pervious pavement, but it's very green. They used other best management practices.
Okay, perfect.
So then on page 25, which is also, that's the lighting and the landscaping. In the response letter, we had asked for more information on lighting and they gave information on lighting, but I don't think they gave the kind of information we wanted because I didn't see anything in there about bird-friendly or eco-friendly lighting. So maybe it is, but it doesn't say it.
Well, then I think you ought to,
Yeah.
you know, again, in your comments, you would want to put that, requesting that.
Yep. Okay, then in terms of the, also on 25, if you look at the listing of plants to be used for the landscaping, the trees and shrubs, there are a number of non-natives being used, and I would like to suggest that they consider using natives instead. There's several 6 red twig dogwoods, Asian ones being proposed, and we have beautiful native red twig dogwoods that are available in, you know, smaller sizes that would work there. And they're also asking for 7 Japanese holly, which are a lovely shrub, but something like Itea virginica, Virginia sweetspire would work just as well. And that would really up the amount of native plants there. So I would recommend that. Then in the response letter on item number 7, it talks about this retaining wall. And then in number 10, it talks about the man-made steep slopes.
I'm going to cut you off for just 1 second. I just want to make note for the record that Dane has joined us.
Okay,
But go
great.
ahead. Thank you.
And I don't know that there's anything we can do about this, but it perturbs me that, all the disturbance to slopes and steep slopes is, I guess, acceptable because it's man-made steep slopes. And to me, I believe the owner made those steep slopes a couple years ago when he went in there and bulldozed the property. So I think that's kind of annoying that he can do that. He wasn't listening.
All right, so the motion was made by Cindy Mahalo to make a
So
comment.
Steve, is that the case?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I was making note that Dane joined us at one
Yeah,
time.
I know.
What-
So I'll repeat myself. In item number 10 in the response letter,
Yep.
there's a lot of discussion about disturbance to steep slopes, very steep slopes, which do exist on the site.
Yep.
And I don't remember the exact code, but they cite the fact that the disturbances to man-made steep slopes, which I
Yep.
think then allows them to disturb more. But it seems to me that these steep slopes that have been created were man-made recently since this owner started mucking around on the property. And I'm
So I guess the only comment I would make to you on that is our code allows for disturbance of man-made steep slopes. We do allow that. And so,
But isn't it a lesser, greater disturbance? Oh, yes, they do allow.
we
Yes.
allow disturbance of man-made steep slopes. I think what the argument would be if you have an argument, and I don't know because so much of this was done.
Yes.
They've been moving dirt on this property since I've been here, but they were moving dirt on this property before I came. I don't know what the original topography of the land was to be able to come back and say, my understanding was the slope went down from Route 3 onto the property, and then it kind of leveled out more once you got down onto the property. And what he's actually done is brought in more dirt and built it up. And so if he's disturbing the steep slope, he may be disturbing his own man-made steep slopes, and we would say that's allowable. If he's eliminated a steep slope and created a new one, then that may be a different thing. And so I just don't know that answer without going back to what the original topography of the land was prior to that.
Do we have access to those records? Because
Well, we should have had access to the records when he had his original plan brought into the township
Right.
that allowed him to do, he had an original plan that allowed him to do soil moving and adding and doing those kind of things. And so
It just seems to me that this, like, the horse is out of the barn here, but it seems to me that there's been a lot of soil movement.
Yeah.
Lot of soil movement on that property, and there's some very steep slopes there. And I just wonder over the years if it was all allowed. And
well, supposedly some of it's being watched by whoever the engineer was at the time. What I can tell you is there were sometimes movement was done and the engineer wasn't aware that the movement was being done, only because I made note to the engineer, and you say, oh yeah, I didn't know at this time, or other times the engineer knew that they were out there and moving. I go back to, I don't know that they're disturbing a slope that was there prior to the adding of the dirt that they added. That's the issue.
say that
That's,
again.
Doesn't know.
if they're disturbing and moving a dirt that they put on and they created the slope, our code does not preclude that being done.
Right,
Our-
I understand that, but I'm saying that the steep slope that they created X, Y years ago. They have permission to do that, and that's maybe.
I
that's
believe-
Knowable.
I believe some of it was allowed because they were given the road around where what we know is Alice Grin Boulevard that has the light that connects Campus Boulevard, and then go down to, I guess Alice Grin Boulevard is where it is down at the other end, but what goes across there, they had a land disturbance permit for that area. And they have kept that alive by moving dirt for the last
Many years.
longer than I've been your township manager, that's for sure.
We should probably move on. This is
Okay.
not actionable, but it is still
Well,
annoying.
the action is for you to commit to the comment letter on the notions that you've made, so.
Yeah, okay, so should I propose a comment letter? I propose that we write a comment letter, talking about the, making the park, integrating more stormwater management friendly practices in the parking lot by making it perhaps smaller, perhaps no curbs, wider islands. Secondly, like to specify, have them explain or specify that they're using bird-friendly lighting, that we would like that, and can they explain if they're doing that? Thirdly, to have a sidewalk on at least one side of every street, which would probably mean suggesting that they add a sidewalk along Drive B. And fourthly, just note that we hope that riparian buffers will be protected.
And
I
tree
think-
choice.
Oh, yeah, and the tree choice that they replace some of the non-native plants with more native species, specifically switching out the red twig dogwood and the Japanese holly for native dogwood and native shrubs such as Itea virginica.
All right. Motion was made by Cindy Mahalo, seconded by John Cabanas, for Cindy to put forth a comment letter on the items that she mentioned. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Dane, what was your vote on that?
He's muted.
Okay.
Probably in. We can text.
Can he text us his vote?
No, he needs to acknowledge that he can hear us and then.
Dane, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. And
Yeah.
what was your vote on the motion forth for Cindy to put
Yeah.
comment letter?
Yay.
Yeah, perfect. All right. All in favor? All in favor? Of the board. All right, great. Item number 7.2, discussion and possible action on the reverse subdivision located at 3734 and 3740 Westchester Pike. So I actually was at this property today and I'm just trying, what is the max percentage that you can have for impervious coverage for both a building and a driveway, Steve?
I don't recall it. I forget what that's zoned, so I'd have to look to
It
see.
is commercial zoned. I think it's a
I
C1.
mean, and I don't know it off the top of my head, even if I knew what it was zoned.
Okay.
So, I mean, like that would be reviewed, and if it's not, if it's beyond what they're allowed to do, then Andy would say they had to go to zoning for a relief.
So the basic premise is there's two buildings, and they want to make a connection, so they want to do a couple things. One building presently has 2,843 square feet. The other building has 4,325 square feet. So existing is 7,168 square feet. They want to subtract 59 square feet, but they will add an additional 691. Bottom line for the building will be 7,818 square feet. However, they also want to add a 14-foot driveway to connect the two buildings. So I was at the property today, and I was greatly concerned because the majority of the property is already parking lot. And the only bit of space of green is where they're proposing to put this 14-foot wide connection driveway. So I know the acre between, it's one property is 0.344 acre and the other property is 0.653 acres. So altogether, the two properties combined will be 0.997 acres. So roughly, and that's from the square footage, that's 4,347 square feet in totality and only 7,818 square feet for the building. However, most of it is now going to be driveway.
Yeah, here's what I would say. First of all, I think the engineer should comment and say, you need to actually show the percentage of, and show it against, not just show what's existing and what's going to be, but how does it go against code?
Right.
We require that on plans. And so
But in the impervious coverage plan that they show, they only show the building, not.
I understand, I'm going to assume, and I know what assuming does, but the engineer typically makes comment about that in the engineering letter and I will make note to the engineer about that. But typically we require in that chart that is on there, that it actually says, this is what the zoning allows, this is what we have.
Okay.
Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what we go against. And if they don't include everything, then the engineer says, you got to go back and add.
And one thing in the 14-foot driveway that they're adding, they only show one existing tree in that space where they're going to be taking out trees. And that's not, I didn't see that noted in the plan. So they would actually, where that driveway is behind the one property, there is maybe a 45 to 50-foot birch tree that's not noted on the plans that will be removed,
Okay,
as well as some the trees. There's a chick cherry and another berry tree that will be right at that connection point. So that was concerning for me too. The only green space I saw was on the front of the property and this green space that they are going to be taking out for this connection. Another thing I was concerned about is the drainage for, I can see that the existing, the 3734 Westchester Pike, their roof water collects to someplace where I don't know if it's underground or where they charge that from, because the spouts go directly under the ground for 3734, but 3740 drains open straight out and it doesn't go anywhere. Actually, one of the front of the building, their rain goes right out from the beginning of the building, almost onto the, maybe about 10 feet from Westchester Pike. So it collects there and then dumps out to their front, which was concerning. So I would like to know kind of how much of the driveway is impervious. And that was a big part of the concern for me.
well, I think your note would be, I think the note that you want to make is that the plan does not indicate what's allowable impervious versus what they have. And until that, it's hard for you to make a determination.
Right.
And so I think if you note that, I think the engineer is also going to note that, and they're going to have to come back and you'll probably have a second go at this because of that.
Okay. And I did see that they do have a drainage. It looks for the first minute, the water will be drained behind the property, but it doesn't say it's going to be handling both properties' water, or is it just the building that they presently handle?
I don't.
So did anyone else have any comment? And the other thing I was concerned with is they are looking to go right up to the fence, almost to the end of that property, and they're going to put a fence in there. And that's really, there's a person's backyard right there. So maybe we could make a suggestion to have a softer approach. Obviously if they want a fence, but maybe something of a softer look to that.
I think,
Did you see that? They
I
recommend a
didn't
fence.
notice the fence, but I think I know that the code does have specifications about landscape buffers that are required on commercial properties. Steve, I think there's a formula
Mhm.
of
Right.
shrubbery and stuff when you have a commercial property against.
Yeah, I think they're gonna,
Residential.
part of they're gonna deal with is if it's a pre-existing condition, there's allowances for the pre-existing condition. The question would be if they're doing something. Without seeing the whole thing, and I have
Yeah.
not reviewed this one. Without knowing all of that, I don't know exactly, there's some things that are allowed that would not normally be allowed
Okay.
in a commercial versus up against a residential.
So in this, it says the property, and it almost looks like there's probably about 3 to 4 feet difference from what you can see was like a type of property line. So there is a fence planned in here, and we would like, probably something of more of a plant friendly, because then it's a very harsh look for the neighbors. There's 3 properties behind there, and it's kind of a,
So Sheila, is there room to?
I guess the
Thank you.
question that I would ask you, and again, I really want to make sure you stay in your lane, okay? If you want to suggest that there be plantings because you think plantings are more environmentally friendly,
Yes.
then I would suggest that. Whether the fence
Sorry.
looks harsh to the neighbors or not should be
okay.
the neighbor's issue,
Yeah.
not EAC's issue.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
where I was gonna go.
I just want to make sure,
If there's a little stretch of land there, that's an opportunity to add some native.
then I
plants.
think that's a
That's-
different, I think that's a
Yeah.
conversation for you to say, we would like to see a barrier there to help because there's so much impervious and that would help increase management of water on the area if there were more plantings that were natural plantings and trees and those kind of things.
and that is definitely, because my concern was that is no, there is no place for that water to go.
Yeah, and if there were trees, they would help cool the pavement and
Right.
clean.
I mean, there's all kinds of benefits
Yeah,
and we know what those are. And that's what I would do my recommendation.
okay. Did anyone else have any comments on that property? And suggestions on it? So, would you be able to make up another?
How about you write that letter and I'll write this letter?
Okay, all right.
So I think just go back through again,
that's
what
the-
is, be a little bit,
But the
We
letters.
covered it.
12 o'clock tomorrow, though? This is, are they going
It's-
for the?
they're going before the planning commission next week, yes. So. And I don't think the engineers had a chance to finish the review on this one yet, do you know? I don't think I've seen it.
There's not a lot to say. You just ask, tell them
Yeah.
they have to say what the impervious surfaces.
I think, I think
And ask them
I
to
think the 3
consider-
things that I've heard you say, and I just want to. But there may be more, and that's why I'm a little bit hesitant. One is you do have a question about what is their change for the current runoff or current downspouts that may be daylighting and not have, not be appropriate. And then the second one that I heard was regarding the amount of impervious, because there's not, the chart's not clear. That we think the chart should be clear and make sure that there's not more impervious than what's allowed. And then third was the soft buffer between the property lines, because you'd like to see more trees and plants, whatever vegetation. That's what I think I heard you say. There may be been something else. If it was, I missed it. So
All right, so I guess we will make the motion that I will put forth a letter outlining our issues regarding the runoff, the daylighting, and the impervious coverage, and the request for more native plants or any type of planting from an environmental standpoint for the property. And anyone want to second that motion? Okay, motion was made by Sheila Sullivan Feeney, seconded by Joe Pinto, that I will construct a letter regarding the development at 3734 and 3740 Westchester Pike. Perfect.
We need to vote.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Dane, did you vote on that?
I'm in favor. Yep.
All were in favor, unanimous decision. All right. Item number 8.1, 311 Sawmill Lane Development Applicant presented to the zoning hearing on February, which was approved. No plan set for planning commission date, no action at this time. Garrett Williamson Land Development Application. The applicant has granted the township an extension for an indefinite period of time as the project has been put on hold while the applicant works through some issues on their end. No action at this time. Item 9.9, new business. All right, so the EAC proposed 2024 budgets. Yeah, let's see. All right, the budget items for 2023, we had $700 for training, $400 for event support, $500 for signs, $600 for flyers, $600 for sustainable business, $750 for reusable bags, $1,000 for consultation, and $4,620 for rain gardens. That was our existing 2023 budget. So far, we have spent roughly, oh wait, right now we have, we spent $1,000 for Greenweaver deposit, 4,520 for Greenweaver payment. We've spent $973 for Green Business Coalition supplies, $600 for leaf mulch, $105 for the regional EAC conference, and $100 for the Congress along the Schuylkill conference. And then there was additional $155 of Green Business Coalition expenses. So right now we have $1,717, and I believe there's a couple more expenses coming out of that.
$1,700 spent or left?
Left. All right. Now that I believe there's still some expenses due out of that, and we do also have, which we'll be bringing up, our EAC conference in October, which will be minimal. I believe there might be some more expenses for the Green Business Coalition. The question about the bags, we had discussed last year, and that is something for us to consider, and we'll put a pin on that one because we're going to talk about this year's budget, but keep that in mind. Projected for budget requests. Now, this is just request items. We have a couple items. We kind of wanted to put them together in a category, and right now, from a training perspective, we're looking to go higher than we were for 2023, and we would be looking to do training of $1,590. And that would include a tree canopy conference for Morris Arboretum, a participant at the Congress along the Schuylkill. We would look at all EAC members to be able to participate in both the spring and the fall EAC regional conference. And an item that we're considering to add to this year, which was part of that $1,590, is to have one of our members participate in the PA Land Conservation Conference. It's 3 nights out at Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, from April 3rd to the 5th. This is part of the focus on obviously land conservation, but specifically with the EAC and open space forums and ways to take advantage of both conservation and incorporate that into our overall EAC philosophy. That was between the 3 days, roughly would be the $1,100. That's in that already included in the 1590 fund. But I thought it would be really important that, and I had mentioned that I really thought it would be helpful for Cindy Mahalo to go to this. I think Cindy's a phenomenal resource for the EAC. I think empowering her with more information, making connections with Land Conservation Conference would really be helpful. And we will write up our sheet, Steve, because not only does it help us be the preeminent township that we are, it helps us accomplish our goals of open space is preserved and reclaimed, which is part of our directives of our EAC initiatives, as well as the strategic and the comprehensive plan. So that is one of our ideas. The other idea would be a rain gardens educational signage workshop and literature holder. And I have a whole sheet on this. That would be for $450. A really big expense. This sounds shocking, Steve, but don't worry, we have a plan. This is for us to have 125 tree giveaway, okay, in the township. Now, this would cost us roughly $7,795. Steve is having a stroke over there, but we have a solution. Okay. What's great about this, not only does it help the environment, it helps our MS4 plan. We are going to partner with Shade Tree Commission. So we are going to split the cost between the two committees. So we will be under budget and Steve will be happy. EAC and Shade Tree thinks this is really an important way for us to accomplish our goal for meeting the 1,000 trees. If we don't start moving the dial on accomplishing the trees, and we do not want these trees to go into a township property. We know that understanding the maintenance on that, the cost to the township, to your personnel is outrageous. But we want to really make sure we have a mechanism, and Cindy has been working on that for our tree giveaway. So that is in our budget items for next year. In addition to that, we have a couple other.
Can I just pipe in there? Janet and I participated in a webinar hosted by the Pennsylvania Audubon, Delaware County Audubon, about tree giveaways. Birdtown, sorry, what did I say? Audubon?
Yes,
Okay,
right.
Birdtown. And it was very enlightening because they had representatives from about 5 other townships in the area talk about their tree giveaway programs. And Radnor was the outlier in that the trees they gave away were privately funded. But every other giveaway was funded by the township, and they gave away upwards of 100 trees, and they've been doing it for a couple years, and they gave away 5-gallon trees. Sometimes they gave away trees and mulch, and almost all of them were going to not only repeat the tree giveaway the next year, but then increase it. So it's just something I found it interesting to know that many of the township's peers are doing that, giving away, nice sized trees.
Yeah, and the plan that you're gonna roll out is talking about, the residents' responsibility. They would be taking a class to understand the importance of the tree. There would be management for the tree. They understand that
Mhm.
there's a waiver removing the township because of it being a tree that's given to them. All of those things would be factored into it, but also they would be able to record those 125 trees for the township's MS4 plans, which is huge. All right, back to our budget. So our total budget is $11,945, which is a shocking amount compared to us $9,170 last year. However, once you take out the EAC splitting the tree fund with the shade tree, our budget is only going to be $8,047.50. So we are saving you $1,000. So
Not if the shade tree puts in $3,000.
No,
Much.
that's the shade trees budget. This is
So you're okay if we only do half of those
no,
trees?
that's right. We are putting the 11,000, we are putting the total sum of the trees under the EAC, because this is not just a tree issue. This is an environmental issue.
No, I
So
get you.
we will take the full heat, and you can come after us for being over budget. But we are saying that this is important, and this is.
No, I hear what you're doing.
Okay.
The only thing, again,
But my
You're not-
real numbers are $8,047.50. So we, the EAC, are winners here. Okay.
And I would like to throw my 2 cents in, and I've said this, Sheila's heard me say this a number of times. I do not think that the cost of planting trees should be an EAC budget number.
Yes.
I think it should be either under Public Works or under MS4. And if you look at the cost of achieving MS4 over 5 years as being over $1 million, and you say the tree planting per year costs what? Oh,
7,790.
what
$5.
percentages is that? Is that like someone do the math, 1%?
well, but that's
5 million.
not our number that we need to hit, right? I mean, we
Right,
need to hit more trees than that to hit our goal.
Yes,
right.
and we would gladly increase that number. We were
Yeah.
just being ever so
No, I,
responsible and cautious with spending the taxpayers'
no,
dollars.
look,
And-
you're not. You don't have to sell me. I mean, I get it. I understand what the.
Bumped it from 500 to 1,000.
So the bottom line, we're looking at this. So let's give you our totals. Our training cost was $1,590. Our event support was $400. Our signage would be $500. Our flyers, $600. Our sustainable business costs would be $600. Consultation, which is a standard thing that's been in there, is 1,000.
What is that for?
This is under the budget. This is anytime they're using, this is kind of a chance when they need to go out and get outside experts or information on that. Rain garden supplies, that specifically is the mulch, because the leaf mulch will help us, and community workshop, which is $450. Now, in some of those funds, we did add a couple things. We think that EAC, and this is in that $11,000 number. We have 4 times that we believe that the EAC should have a social media boost. It's a $25 application for any of your social media broadcasts to be boosted. And we putting that as an EAC number, only because it's specifically for when we're doing plantings or when we're doing any of our events, and we want to get the word out there. I mentioned to the leaf mulch, I mentioned the grain bus. Oh, and 2 other things. this is also very important. We believe that because we are a member of 2 watersheds, and watersheds are important because they need to receive money from the towns that they support. We believe that we should be supporting at least $100 to both the Darby Creek and the Crum Creek.
I think we already do that.
Right, okay, well, we were just to make sure it's in we were adding it in our budget.
That's fine. So here, again, remember, I've asked that each budget item
Yes.
have its own sheet.
Yep.
A couple of those could kind of get pulled together,
Yep.
but your education piece, I would keep that like breakout
Yep.
on one sheet, the different education pieces, your tree piece, your sign piece, you could just do that.
All right, and
Sheila, I had
our-
also suggested that we send someone from the EAC to the CRC dip.
yes, I agree.
Right. And so I don't know whether that's
Yes, I
in
did.
there.
I did actually say that we should have this item in EAC attendance at watershed events because really so much, and when we've been talking to all these individuals, we were at last week at the Delaware County Sustainable the Delaware County Sustainable Conference. Cindy, Janet, Suzanne, and I and Paul were there. Fabulous opportunity, fabulous for us to connect. It's really important when you're we were able to talk to DCNR, DCCD, Willistown, everybody was there. These events are important because it gives Janet an opportunity to talk about, programs and let
all of our
Cindy
programs,
talk to these individuals saying, what do you have in terms of funding? And we are Newtown Square. We are willing to do whatever you have funding for. So these are important opportunities. So we will get our big numbers out to you, but just remember, we are under budget technically. So, okay. Anyone have any questions on that? Is there anybody that disagrees with any of those comments or would like to add additional?
It would be very helpful to see that.
Yes.
It's very hard to absorb that all just orally.
Well, we still have a month or two before we have to.
No, but I mean, even for us
Okay.
tonight, it would
Okay.
have been great for us to have a copy of what because you're throwing a lot of numbers out really fast and it's very hard for us to absorb it.
Okay.
So also, when we were Birdtown under Audubon Birdtown, we had to it was a $400 annual cost to be Birdtown. At this point, there is no cost for being Birdtown, although obviously Birdtown is being kind of funded by Heidi Shiver, who is the chair of it. But I think it would be nice if we could make even just a $200 donation to Birdtown as being a member of Bird.
Okay. And right now, do these have to be under EAC? Because I asked the same.
What
about the
I
tree.
got a quick question on that. Is it is a 501(c)(3)?
It is a
Yes.
501.
Okay, that's fine.
And what about the Tree City USA fee? Do we pay that? under
I think that's
Township?
falling under, I think that
Shade
falls under shade tree.
Okay,
but
great. We don't
I'll have
take
to,
that out. Good.
I'll
Perfect.
have to check with George.
All right. So there are the items up for discussion. And we could add additional to this. I think the tree that Cindy proposed is a great idea, and I think that's really where we're gonna get the best bang for our buck. And
So what I would recommend is for your next meeting is that you have just a list. You don't, you need to do the sheet.
Yep.
And I'm happy if you want to give everybody the sheets, but I would have just a short chart that says this amount, this amount, this amount, and then the total. Because I tried to write everything down and I didn't keep up with you. So, and I,
Joe,
and I didn't come up with your number. And so, I'm not saying it's not right. I just think it would be helpful if we had that just spelled out.
you are so right. I should speak slowly.
You should give us typewritten hard copies.
All right. Item number, 9.2. This is a great item. Okay, so, this is the discussion and possible action on recommending to the Board of Supervisors that all township ordinances and codes relating to the wetlands determinations, wetland studies, wetland delineation, and jurisdictional determinations, that studies submitted be considered valid for only 5 years. This is the recommended best management practices. So I guess what we're trying to do here is Stony Knoll was a great success in terms from the environment, but we had to expend a lot of energy and effort into it. In speaking with EAC members and outside members, best practices say that a wetland delineation should be valid for 5 years.
Mhm.
The developer was putting forth a 30-year-old delineation and expecting it to be approved. That's really not acceptable. And although we were able to, be successful on it, it took a lot of our energies, our efforts, and repeated, constantly. The planning commission brought it up that they only approve to the code. So since they're approving to the code, we have to give them the code to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So, anyone have a discussion on that item?
I agree. Yes.
All right, so I'm going to put forth a motion that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors that anytime any land developer.
So I think what you're recommending is a change to the ordinance
Yes,
to comply with what you have here. What you've written here, that it be a 5-year window.
Yes.
I think that if you just say it that way,
okay,
so that we would know that we have to go in and make sure it's consistent throughout the entire thing.
so we would make a recommendation that we'd be following best management practices and considering what we have noted here regarding wetlands, and that's encompassing studies, delineations, and determinations, all be considered valid for the point of ordinances. And do I get a second on that?
So moved.
Second. Motion was made by Shiloh Sullivan Beatty, seconded by Jenna Crevenez. All right, perfect.
We need to vote on it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dane?
Aye.
Perfect.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All in favor, as everyone has voted in favor, any opposed? Motion stands unanimous. Awesome. All right, item 9.3, the EAC Regional Conference. This will be held on Saturday, October 21st at Westchester University. This will be in person and registration will be open in July. I will send you out an email. Just wanted to put it on your calendars. And this is an all-day event and it will be fabulous. So if indeed, just want to see who's interested in attending, everybody, perfect.
So this is through the We Can Serve PA,
Yes.
right?
And I just wanted to kind of get an idea of who was interested, and I will send you out and we'll have Rose register everyone that's interested as soon as it becomes available. Okay, old business. All right, update on Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition. Dane, can you give us a quick update, buddy?
Yeah, we're continuing to promote the program. So we've had to reschedule the township video, which is now scheduled for July 27th, which is a Thursday. Would love if any of the EAC members were able to attend that. It's going to be at the township. And what we'll be doing is interviewing Leonard and Steve, and would love to have the opportunity to interview some of the EAC members to give their input on the program and kind of some activities that we're doing from a township level.
Perfect. So
Other than that, we're still,
yes, we have a really good news one.
any questions on that?
I guess, Dane, we're still waiting on one that we think would be a great win, but they haven't announced yet they haven't put in their form, so we're hoping that will happen, but we want to wait on that one, right?
Yeah, there's a couple that are still on the fence that we need to work through. So, but yeah, we're still continuing to promote. I mean, the township newsletter, I'm not sure when that's scheduled to go out, but we had a nice half page of all the businesses' logos on there. So I think just the more that we continue to promote, we were at the farmers market a few weeks back as well, and then Circle at Sundown as well. So, we're just going to continue to beat the drum as far as promoting this and promoting the sustainable leaders. So.
And also, I mentioned this to Dane at the Delaware County Sustainable Conference. Fabrice from Boron was one of the panelists, and he got up and was talking about how he's incorporated sustainability into his business. Did a fabulous job representing Newtown Township. He mentioned the township, how supportive they have been to him. He mentioned our Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition program as well, and just did a stand-up job promoting Sustainable Newtown Square. So that was fabulous. Any other comments on that? Okay. Item 10.2, Newtown Township Comprehensive Plan Recommendations. This is an update on the township enacting recommendations from the comprehensive plan for the wetlands and riparian buffer ordinance. So I understand, Steve, that you have asked the ordinance of the lawyers and codes to kind of look in, and what's their thoughts on that? Where are we?
Yeah, I was hoping that I was actually going to have reviewed some of what the work that had been done over the last several weeks by our intern in this area. He's been pulling together not only what's best practice, but also what other municipalities are doing so that we can show the board, you know, what would be, where things are, so we can make it a recommendation. And I did not get to review that with him the last 2 days, but he has worked on it, and I think that has gotten pretty far along. I just need to go with him and then look at it and then get
And I
back
think
with Rich.
And is looking at that as well.
Yeah, is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
for the wetlands?
Yeah,
and
he's
the
looking,
riparian
he's doing
Oh.
7 different, he's looking at 7 different changes to ordinances.
Right.
Wetlands is one of them.
And, okay, but just focused on wetlands, I thought that a couple weeks ago, the Board of Supervisors voted to authorize the Township Council to work on that.
Right.
I'm just thinking of the level of expertise that's being.
So
put on this.
what we're, yeah, they did, and it will go back to the solicitor for further updating and actual doing. He's doing a lot of the research so that we're not paying a solicitor to do research on something that literally is pulling what another community is doing. It's just getting all of that together so that when the solicitor goes in, he's looking at it from the legal side and looking at the part. And so that's what we do.
And
Would
was
it be
he,
possible for us to see the research that he puts
Sure.
together on the related ordinances, the weed and the wetlands, riparian buffer?
Yeah.
That would be nice to see that.
and a lot of the things that we're talking about for item 10.2 were based on the comprehensive plan and the recommendations already, and they were recommending 100-foot riparian buffers. I mean, they were already noted in that plan, right, Cindy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he's gone through and pulled that out of there.
Okay, great.
He actually right now knows the comprehensive plan better than I do.
So where do you think we're going to be on this? Is this like a 2-month issue? We're going to have.
I
some
have,
clarity?
I had no idea how long it will take Rich to review it once it gets to Rich. We're trying to put things together to help speed up the process for Rich.
And we would appreciate that only because if there's anything in development and if we could get
No, I get
those
it.
things
Yep.
sorted, we'd greatly appreciate. Thank you, Steve, for that. On item 10.3. Well, this is the wetland law and alternative and ordinance update discussion and possible action on the township's weed ordinance to help residents with lawn conversion, meadows, naturalized lawn, and lawn alternatives. Cindy and Janet, I know you've done mountain amount of work to collect that. I know, as Steve mentioned, I believe Jack is his name.
Yep.
Jack is researching that. So any other information you can give us on that, Steve?
No, I would just say that what I asked Jack to do was similar thing was, and I'm actually, we've got 2 interns this summer that are both working on codes / ordinance kind of things, and we're asking them to build charts that show what other municipalities are doing, if we can find if there's something out there from the state, what best practices are or whatever. And we're building all of those so that it's real easy for the board just to say, here's your selections. And then making recommendations that obviously fall in line with what best practices are.
We submitted to Andy and to you
Yes,
quite an extensive document
yes.
on what we would like to see happen and referenced a lot of other communities.
That document has been given to the intern. He's reviewing that along with what he's doing. And in addition, it's been forwarded to the solicitor. So the solicitor already has it. And then will be a part of whatever is sent to the board.
Okay, fantastic.
One thing I did note is I found a really interesting program through Springfield Township. Not only are they doing a No May Monday, but their program, and I can talk, I sent a copy of that to you, Cindy. What they're doing is they have the names and the individuals who are on under this plan, who do No Mow Mondays, in the township. So both the police and the fire marshal know about it to keep neighbors from complaining about it. They do have lawns that are cut back at regular lengths along the edges, that the strip of grass is maintained. They actually have a sign identifying the property from the Springfield EAC, which is really nice because it promotes the program as well as the EAC's environmental news. And then they offer to educate their neighbors about what they're doing. So it's a nice little tidbit. And I'm sure I saw your information. You have so much information as well, but there's other programs out there that are successful, and we would love for hopefully Jack to get back to, because I know Cindy and Janet need this to move forward on the next item, because we need to know that Willistown will be supported. So there's a pathway for them to do item 10.4. Okay, any other comments on that? Item 10.4, Willistown Conservation Lawn to Meadows Conversion Program. Update on partnering with Willistown Conservation for residential lawn to meadow conversions for the summer, fall 2023. Discussion and possible action on grant opportunities with Willistown for their programs. Cindy and Janet, take it away.
All right, so both Cindy and I met with Andrew Kirkpatrick from Willistown Conservation Trust to find out the parameters of the lawn to conversion program. And Andrew sent on to us a number of documents on the importance and the need to support a conversion, because we need to support our pollinators. And also Andrew sent on the document for applying for a grant. That information has gotten out, and we've been getting, both Cindy and I have been getting feelers from other organizations, other people who are interested in becoming part of this. And so I know, Cindy, you've been working with Hunters Run. Both of us had an opportunity to speak with Boron at the sustainability, and both of us received letters from Linda, I think, which we both responded to.
Yeah.
So they've had a double dose of what Willistown is looking for. The opportunity to make a conversion for only a cost of $315 an acre, when they really projected it's about $4,000 for them to do that. It is a great opportunity. And I think that Louis Rosenthal was another one who's reached out. So these at this point are part of HOAs, or I don't know. I think Boron is part of an HOA.
Yes,
But
their organization.
Yes, right.
But what we are standing is, the EAC is not in any way.
We're strictly a conveyor of
Exactly.
information.
Right.
And they are bringing, so the EAC is doing a great job in supporting Willistown's program. Who is the agent? You're just bringing these people, individuals. We as the EAC are not interfering with HOAs in any way. It's their business. We're just providing the connectivity. So that's awesome. And anyone in the community that's interested in these programs, both Willistown and or they can contact the township, because these are great opportunities. And Cindy, any other comments on that? All right, item 10.5, fall planting, discussion and possible action on collaborating with the Shade Tree Commission for the Keystone 10 million trees and similar organizations to organize a township fall tree planting in 2023. Take it away, Cindy.
Well, it would actually, what we've been discussing is a tree giveaway, not a tree planting. And I participated in a webinar hosted by Karen Wilwall, who's the watershed specialist at the Delaware County Conservation District. And she had on the call representatives from Havertown. Upper Providence didn't show. There was someone, a power company or something, somebody further west, but she had 4 of us who were key partners in the tree distribution last year and had expressed interest in significant involvement this year. And we talked about what went well last year, what didn't go well, and the roles we might each respectively play in kind of the logistics. And George was involved in this in terms of picking up the trees, ordering the trees, consolidating orders for trees, picking up the materials, and talked a lot about the logistics of how it worked last year, how it might work this year. And you know, there's been no action step since then, but she's looking to us to express how we might like to get involved. And the thing that really hit me with that is what I knew, but I kind of forgot, which is we are in the 4th tier district area of the state. So we are in the lowest priority state, part of the state. And so when when the Keystone 10 million hands out, starts advertising their trees in the fall, they have this wonderful, very long list of all kinds of trees and shrubs. And that goes to the 1st tier and they get their choice. And then it goes to the 2nd tier. And then there's fewer left. And then it goes to the 3rd tier. So by the time it gets to us, not only is it maybe a month before the giveaway, because all the other rounds of offerings have been offered, but we get whatever's left over. So to give away these trees, it just made me recalibrate. Like, we can't promise a certain species to anybody.
Right.
If we're going to publicize this, the way to do would be to start vague and just say, we're planning on having a tree giveaway. It's going to be generally this time frame. This will be the size of the tree. These are the materials you'll get. We can't promise you how many. We can't promise you the species. But just let us know if you think you might be interested in getting one of these little trees. And then like down to the wire, you know, like 4 weeks beforehand or closer, you know, we might confer with George, confer with Shade Tree, see what list is available and say, of these, what do we think we'd want to order? And then just maybe kind of arbitrarily say, we want 25 of each of these species or whatever. And then go out to the public and say, okay, you expressed interest. These are the species we have. So there's a lot less control over that because you're getting smaller trees, you're getting free, you're waiting till last minute. And if we were to have a funded tree giveaway, like we're putting in the budget, the execution of that for next year might be very different. The trees would be larger, there'd be more control over it. So anyhow, that's,
If by chance we can save 1,000, if we choose not to do the bags or do that other idea and we save that $1,000, would that be something we could consider? Is it even something we can consider to reallocate the 2023 money? If we can save $1,000 to, because you mentioned you
Not-
had $400 left over from somebody else.
what are you asking?
If we have $1,700 right now left in our 2023 budget, we have some expenses that still have to be paid, so we'll be roughly down to 1,000 that I know of. Plus there was $750 last year allocated for the giveaway bags. So we
Give away bags?
Yeah,
Oh,
remember-
yeah, canvas.
Samples, yep. So if we kind of,
Like, we don't
That's a
normally
question.
carry budget dollars over.
right,
If you're wanting to put in the budget for that, put in the budget amount that you want. Don't,
no, I'm saying use 2023 money for instead of the
No,
bags
no,
for the
no,
trees.
if you want to do that, just put in the budget for 2024, what it is that you want. It's, we don't say we didn't spend it this year, so you carry it over for next year.
Oh, no, I was trying to say if she could use $1,000 this year toward trees for the fall, if we don't buy the sustainable bags.
Oh, yeah, all we have to do is take it before the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
I'm sorry,
actually
I
purchase the
misunderstood what
bigger
you were
trees.
saying.
Yeah, to get you $1,000. And I believe, I thought you got $400 from somebody else because there's a question about Janet's money and our, and our money from DCCD that we would supplement, remember what we got for this year's funding?
Yep.
So we might even be able, yes.
Yes, $400 that was left from the pop-up garden
Right.
from Valley Forge. They did send that money to the township. I think you were still looking to see where it is.
Yeah, I mean, but yes, you can spend that on whatever it is that you're gonna spend it on. We just need to get the board to approve it
Yes.
and move forward.
So right now, that's the $1,000 if we get the board to approve. If we don't buy the bags for this fall, we'd be able to.
No,
do
no, I get
$1,000
that.
And $400 from Janet.
It was my understanding that 2 or 3 months ago, you came to me and said we were $1,000 short for Greenweaver.
Yes.
And that we had to come up with $1,000. So Janet graciously offered to redirect her $400. And that came up with 400, and I contacted Karen Wilwall and asked her if we could reallocate $500 from a DCC mini grant, which we got 3 years ago and never spent, and she said yes. So it's my understanding that we very quickly came up with $900 to offset the 1,000 that somehow we needed to come up with.
Yeah, and she's talking about the $1,000.
I know what she's talking
Yeah,
about.
that from Bruce. And
So
Bruce said
to me,
it's
I
from-
thought that was done and
Right.
no more.
Yeah, but I don't know
discussion.
what, I'm confused now what you're saying.
We're-
Cheryl. That's,
Yeah, we're
I
talking.
think
about
we're
two different things.
mixing apples and oranges, and
yeah.
I just want to make sure that,
What we're looking at is right now for 2023, right? We have $750 allocated for sustainable bags. We're
Yep.
saying not to make that purchase
Right.
of those bags. Have that with $250, have $1,000 for the fall tree planting. We have to obviously go before the board because we're allocating no longer for the bags, we're putting it toward trees.
Yeah, if you want to reallocate it.
Yes,
then-
but we have to get the supervisor's approval. We're saying, would that be helpful to your fall tree planting for 2023? If you got $1,000?
Well, it's not
Well, I meant
it's not mine, and
Yes.
it's not a planting, it's a giveaway.
it's fine.
And if the township or the EAC would like to put $1,000 towards purchasing trees to give away, that could be done.
Yeah, and that's, I guess.
But then again, we'd also have to, well, yeah, we'd have to check with the shade tree because they're the overseers. of-
Yes. So the question is, do we need to take a motion of if we're gonna be not spending the money on the bags or just run it by the supervisors to make sure that they're okay with it?
yeah, I think you need to do that. I think if you're going to do that motion, you need to amend your agenda.
Okay, we'll do that for next
Because-
month.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll do it for next month. We'll get clarity on what our final number will be.
I got a question because how soon do you have to make a commitment on your trees? Do you know?
Well, the free trees, I can tell her what we're thinking.
Yeah,
And we could still try to give away free trees in the fall. And I don't think we really have to commit to anything real soon,
okay,
like just express interest. But if we want to purchase trees, what the people on the webinar recommended is that trees are in hot demand, and that if you want your choice of trees, you generally order them 6 months in advance. Now, $1,000 is a smaller amount of trees. It adds complexity. It doubles my work and of everything. It makes everything much more complicated in terms of how you hand them out it's like doing 2 parallel projects instead of 1. So I'm not excited about that.
Okay.
I was just going to say also, if you go, I'm saying if you act in July, it will be on the board's August agenda because they don't have a second meeting in July. And so it wouldn't get approved until August, and I don't know how that would do for purchasing.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're shorting your window so much that it makes it very stressful for those who are doing it.
So you don't find that it would be supportive of you to get that $1,000 if we were to make a motion tonight?
It
on
would.
that?
It would
So
make-
why are we not?
It
doing
would,
the
it
back?
would make my life incredibly stressful.
Okay.
And last year's tree giveaway was not to be repeated.
Okay.
It was very
Okay.
stressful because it was so last minute. And that's why I've been mentioning this for months.
Okay. I'm I understood that you were looking for money. I was trying to find a way to get you the money to help board the trees, so.
Okay,
that's-
well, I just think that ship has sailed for this year.
Okay, all right. So we will not,
But thank you for
We-
trying.
we will not then be changing and we will follow.
I
through
can
with
come
that.
up with other ways of spending that money.
Yes.
If we have extra
But-
money.
No, we always have to answer to the taxpayers and we want to be responsible with their resources. Okay. Item number, any other EAC members, comments? I just have a couple. You guys, everyone did a fabulous job at Circle at Sundown. The EAC was well represented. So many environmental things. It was a fabulous night and kudos to EAC. Excellent job. Farmers Market, again, we were the first to kick off the EAC was at the first farmers market
And we will be there tomorrow.
for Birdtown.
For Birdtown.
Birdtown, fabulous.
Cheryl Grosso will be
Oh,
there too.
excellent. So EAC has done a great job all spring and summer. Need to take a little rest because it's been a little crazy. So we did our job and we're thrilled to death. All right.
And I also wanted to compliment the supervisors who passed a holiday week
Yes,
resolution
Yes.
on Monday.
that's fabulous.
That was terrific.
And they did it on their own accord.
They
You didn't
did.
even have to initiate it.
That is fabulous.
Well, I should, but, so I did stand, I was there at the meeting. I did offer a little bit of information about the importance of native plants.
Perfect.
For
Anything else? Cindy? anything?
I just want to say that I thought I really enjoyed the Delaware County Sustainability Conference. I thought Newtown Township was well represented. I thought it was great that Suzanne was there. I don't know if she went last year or not. But I think it was not only informative, but it was inspirational. And it was an excellent networking event. We made a lot of really good contacts. And also, Steve, one of the most valuable contacts we made was with Steve Bradley, another Steve Bradley, not you,
Different Steve
a
Bradley.
different Steve
Who
Bradley
had money.
with DVRPC. And we grant opportunities. Yeah, so I can't even remember what they were. My
I
head is
asked for $1
spinning,
million.
but
I asked for
no,
$1 million.
big,
We
big.
shook on it, but I don't think he agreed, but we shook.
So that was great.
I think there's more than just a handshake. They typically go with the RPC money.
Yeah, but no, it
But
was,
the conversation is open and that's what's really good.
Yeah.
and the grant funding has just opened up and we gave them a big spiel on Greer Park and
Yes.
how wonderful it would be to fund that. Secondly, I have 2 community service volunteers that have popped up in the last 24 hours.
Perfect.
In addition to the guy from Monday who's now gone, I've got 2 more. So if anybody has something,
All right, we'll check with Wade as well and
yeah,
Dave Filbert.
think about it real soon. And thirdly, maybe something we could add to next month's agenda is the discussion of open space conservation and funding. Because Steve, you brought that to my attention when you were distributing this document at the budget meeting or whatever it was. And right there, as the second directive for supporting environmental initiatives, is open space being preserved and reclaimed. And it seems like we could be doing more about that, since that's one of our top 3. And attending that conservation conference would be a step, a big commitment of time for me at a time when I'm very, very busy for work. But equally important would be funding, open space funding, some sort of mechanism when the township is having budget related thoughts. Funding mechanisms.
All right. All right, public comment. Please turn on your mic and give your name and address.
Okay, DJ Varner, 203 Gerard Avenue, Town Square. No time is short, so I'll keep this brief. The discussion of the veterans property and the parking lot issues raised a thought that there's these paver stones that you can plant grass in between them.
Yes.
So it's almost like a lawn they can drive on. That could have a lot of benefits. So less thermal sink and all that kind of stuff and parking spots when you need them. The other thought is, can rain gardens be requested when you're exceeding your development area or your impervious area? You know, stormwater is a huge issue, and that would be a huge help to just get that boost. That's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Anyone else for public comment? All right. All right, items for the next agenda. We wanted to add the lights out that asked, so we'll have to vote on that in July for the fall campaign. So we'll discuss that in our next meeting. The Lights Out, which is a Philadelphia program they're asking us to participate in. I will also add, as Cindy recommended, you're mentioning open space, okay, and conservation funding for our July. Anything else for our July meeting, anyone? Okay, Dane, do you have anything to add?
I do not. No, thank you.
Great. All right.